Delicious. Welcome. It's the Delicious Recap, our weekly revisit of the 90s sitcom Family Matters. I am Jon Francois. And Andrew, Ajay, Vandertunt, are you going to be a character this week?
No, today I am Fat Man Scoop. I am doing this in honor of a legend in hip hop, one of the best hype men. Now, y'all are gonna hear this not today because today is a Friday in September. I forgot what day it is.
it's Sep- it's September 6th.
It,
I think people are going to be hearing this maybe, God, later in the year, probably like November or so.
okay, so you guys will be well abreast of this if you like Fat Man Scoop. Unfortunately, he passed away, and he has been like a major influence in my musical life. I love everything he's ever been on, especially if you're a Missy fan. So, in honor of Fat Man Scoop, who I just learned died yesterday since I've been on a social media hiatus, I am him.
You are. And you know what? I remember reading about Fat Man Scoop and being like, okay, I know that name, familiar. And even before I read about him, in my mind, I just remember, like that kind of voice. It's like, and I was thinking to myself, is he that voice that like really hypes us up during like a Missy Elliott song? And I think he did do a Missy Elliott song, didn't he? Like,
He's done multiple Missy Elliott songs. If you like Timbaland, if you like Missy Elliott, if you like Aaliyah, if you like Tweet when she was out, Fat Man Scoop has been an influence on all of them.
yeah, hype man and hip hop, they still, I think, used them, but Fat Man Scoop was the king. If you need somebody to be like, "Yeah," like you need somebody with those strong vocal cords, Fat Man Scoop was your guy. So rest in peace. He was certainly a legend in the hip hop community. Hey, starting off before we dive into season 2, episode 8, a reminder for you to join our Patreon. We do have a Patreon up at patreon.com/delicious recap. You get season 2 episode recaps and interviews early, behind the scenes conversations that we like to have about, I don't know, politics, Fat Man Scoop. You take your pick. You could find those on patreon.com/delicious recap if you sign up for our membership, which is just $5 a month. We are giving you what's called like that streaming service bundle, Andrew. Like you get 2, 3, maybe 4 things for the price of almost a Big Mac, because I think Big Macs are like $6, but you know what I mean. Like a Big Mac is good, so why not pay for almost a Big Mac with our service?
Yes, and if you want to do something and feel good about it, pay $5 for the Patreon. It keeps us off the streets, it keeps us housed, and it's a beautiful gift that we will truly appreciate.
It keeps us off the pole. Nothing wrong with people on the pole, but Andrew and I would just choose to go another way of living. So if you want us to be up, no, you want to be on the pole?
Speak for yourself. I love being on polls.
I will speak for myself. Okay, so I will watch people on polls. I will not be on polls. But if you, I guess, want to not, I guess if you want to enable Andrew to be his dream poll self, don't support our Patreon. But if you want to, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Support the Patreon. It's been a day.
I'll still be on a poll whether you support us, and I hope that you do. But if you support us while I'm on the poll, maybe I'll say, did I do that in the split or something?
There you go. There you go. And hopefully you don't break any bones or bleed. Let's hope it's a very smooth did I do that split.
Ooh, bleeding in a split. That could be a splash finish.
I would a, a splash finish. That is such a very vivid image that you put in my head. So we are recapping season 2, episode 8, Cousin Urkel, original air date November 2nd, 1990. Written by the wonderful writing team of Sally Lapidus and Pamela Eels. Andrew, I actually emailed them today. Pamela, she's going through some personal stuff with family, so it might take some time. And I know Sally was traveling and may have recently got back. So in progress, we are trying to get them on the show to talk about, amongst other things, this episode that they wrote, which is the introduction of Cousin Myrtle. It's directed by Gary Mantier, and we went from 4 guest stars last episode to no one in this episode. It was just main cast. If you are not of sound mind, maybe you think that Myrtle is played by somebody else other than Julia White, but no, Julia White does play Myrtle.
No way. Oh my God, mind blown.
I know. Call the cops. It's a revelation. Andrew, do you mind explaining how we do our rating system throughout the recap?
Throughout the recap, we're going to talk about some things, y'all, because this show is a dinner. It's a dinner. It's courses. We've got our appetites. That's what drew you into the episode. We've got our main course or our entree. That is what sustained you, what felt good. Then we got our dessert, those little tasty morsels on top of everything that you're just like, okay, give me another spoonful. And then we've got our junk food. That's the Go-Gurt. You got to get it out of here because it has no nutritional value for you whatsoever.
And you're making me sad because there was a time when I was a kid when I thought Go-Gurt was the equivalent of a French saucisson kind of elegant meal.
Oh, no, I've never had Go-Gurt. So what does that taste like?
It is basically just yogurt that you just squeeze out of a rubber plastic thing.
Okay, no, I've never had yogurt. So what does that taste like?
I forgot. Dairy does not suit you well. A yogurt is just plumpy. If you just want plumpy in your mouth, plumpy dairy, gooey. That's the best way I can describe yogurt for someone who's never tasted it. It tastes good. It comes in all sorts of flavors: strawberry, peach. You take your pick. But have you had pudding?
There are people who are listening to that description right now, and they're like, he is spot on. And I have had pudding, and pudding is disgusting.
Okay, then you will probably like yogurt because I think it's the same texture. It's literally just, lumpy, you know?
I will pass. That texture would throw me for a loop.
You don't want to take 27 shits in one day? Fine. That is your loss.
Well, I mean, I guess if I'm in a weight loss plan.
Yeah, exactly. On that Oprah weight loss plan. Hey, I don't know if Oprah poops a lot, but that's beside the point. So Hulu synopsis is Steve Urkel's female cousin Myrtle looks and sounds just like him! Exclamation point. Looks, yes. Sounds, meh. I think Jaleel kind of did a decent job doing like a Southern Belle interpretation that's kind of different from the, did I do that of it all. Myrtle develops a crush on Eddie and Laura. And what? Myrtle develops a crush on Eddie, and Laura decides to play a practical joke on him by telling a smitten Myrtle how to get his attention. Shall we dive in?
Let's dive into it. Wait, before we go any further, let me do this. I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yes.
I keep getting alerts.
No worries. So, your thoughts. We go into the cold open in the living room. What do you think?
My favorite cold open we ever gotten.
I feel like you've been saying that for every episode we've done so far. So what about this one makes it your favorite?
Little Richie exits cold opening up. Oh my God. From the start, when he's reading the bedtime story with Rachel, and then he's like ready to start it over as soon as she finishes, and she's like, we've already read it 11 times. And he's like, how about we go for an even dozen? And I screamed. It was so good.
Yeah, so I like the relatability that they're doing because what mother has not had a bedtime story moment with their child where they're ready to tuck the child into bed and the child's like, oh, please, 50 more times. I love the story of the dog and the camel. And, the mother doesn't want it. I mean, she's had a long, exhausting day at work. She wants the child to go to bed. I found it very confusing that Rachel was reading a bedtime story to Richie in the living room. It's called a bedtime story because you usually read it by the bed. So if you really want to get your child into bed and sleeping faster, maybe you want to read it by the bed.
Yeah, I was a little thrown by that. I'm like, they're on the couch, but I guess it kind of works.
I guess. But Carl is next to them and he's playing solitaire. And of course, little Richie, because he's an adorable child actor who knows everything, he has the smarts to tell Carl as he's on the way out, oh, red 5 on the black 6. I bet you love that.
Oh, I did. I love solitaire. Solitaire is a fun game to play. And the fact that they gave little Richie a line for a perfect move in a solitaire game, gold.
Yeah. And then we get Steve coming in, and it's me. Does his high top fade look like it's darker and it's growing?
It's better. It's so much better. Yes.
So what was it before?
Question mark.
Question mark. Yeah, because I don't know. It was just something about his high top fade this time around where it was just like, oh, it's like a bolder black, and it seems like he's growing the hair a little bit. I was drawn to it kind of throughout the episode.
he went to Steve Harvey's person. Whoever did Steve Harvey's like hair, he went there because that high top was on point this episode.
Yeah, I have a theory that Steve Harvey eventually used like some kind of like fake hair piece from like a backstage dressing room. That was part of that might have been part of the reason why he eventually shaved his head. I think he was losing the hair, and then it just got to a point where it just became like totally artificial, that afro on his head.
It was always a wig.
It was? I didn't.
Yeah, it was always a wig. It was never real.
You know what? Actually, no. If you look at Steve Harvey's early stand-up comedy appearances before he made it big, like when he was on the come up, you see like some sort of recedingness going on. And then all of a sudden, when he was starting to make it bigger with like Kings of Comedy and Steve Harvey show, yeah, it did look like this sort of artistic thing that just didn't look real.
Yeah, Cat Williams educated me to hell with that. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that until he said it.
Yeah, I gotta look that online. I didn't even know about that Cat Williams thing. That's interesting. So Steve enters in, and not only does he have the weird hair, but he has an awkward smattering of applause from the studio audience. It seemed like they didn't quite know what to do. It was like, oh, maybe we should clap for him because he's a star, but maybe we should not give him a big head.
I feel like they had the reaction I did. Why are you here? It's bedtime. It is bedtime. Little Richie's going to bed. Why are you walking in here like the middle of the day?
That's true. That's true. It could have been like, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock for all we know. Steve's parents, clearly they don't care. And Steve just, what keeps Steve up at night is the love that he does not get at home. Okay. When you don't have that parental love that you deserve as a child, you cannot sleep by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So I think that's what got Steve to make a sort of late night visit to the Winslow house to play a round of cards with Carl. I mean, God, the amount of games that Steve was suggesting to Carl in rapid succession, like, oh, you know, I can play canasta, gin rummy, goldfish. Do you know how to play any of these games? Because I don't. I think War might be the only one I know how to play.
I'm a spades and heart player. I did not know what canasta was. I had to look that one up. And then, well, you know, goldfish, I played that before. That was a fun one. Gin rummy, I have only heard that on Golden Girls. I have never heard that term any other place.
That makes sense because Golden Girls, it has like a very old lady retirement home, relaxing kind of vibe. I could see him playing cards all day. This is my appetizer. So I loved the physical comedy that Steve displayed when, like, you know, because like Carl was like passing out the cards for Steve to play with him very quickly, and Steve was accepting them just as quickly as Carl was passing it out. And then it got to a moment where Carl was just like, okay, this kid's way too fast. Let me just stop for a moment and see like how he reacts. So you have that split second moment where Carl's just like, all right, I'm going to stop. And then Steve just like, Steve just automatically on autopilot, he just keeps like, he reaches out for his hand quickly because he thinks that a card is coming. It was the greatest thing that I saw.
Oh, okay. I like your appetizer. My appetizer happened to be Little Richie starting it off. So we're in the same boat that the cold open has our appetizers.
I was considering Little Richie as my appetizer, but I didn't want to give in to his fake charms. I just did not. I refuse, and I want to be a cynical dark soul when it comes to Little Richie from now on.
One day you'll be converted. You will join the Church of Richie with the rest of us, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. I think another. No. So this actually, you know, keeps on giving into my appetizer. So remember when Steve had his hunched over body and he was like overly eager? He had like a goofy grin, nerdy face as he's looking at his hand of cards, like, ooh, you big guy, I'm going to get you this time.
I do remember that.
Yeah. And actually he did. He was, speaking of ooh, I think he did say ooh at one point because, oh, yeah. I think Steve was doing that sort of mind trick thing that, like where Carl is looking at his hand and Steve is just like, oh, as Carl is like trying to consider what his next move will be. And Carl is hesitant because he's like, wait, why is this kid making all these ooh noises? And I don't know. I don't know too much about card games, but I was kind of like wanting Steve to be quiet because I feel like he was almost going to let Carl win anyway. Because, or maybe not. What do you think? I mean, do you think that throws Carl off his game? Maybe has him overthinking.
That was Steve's poker face. If you play poker, you know you got to throw off your opponent before they even prepare to touch their card. So Steve did a great job with his poker face here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can see that. And then Steve looks away from Carl to pretend that he hasn't seen his deck. And then once Carl drops a card, like, boom, Steve wins the gin rummy game. And then the audience applauds because anything that Jaleel does at this point is just great in their eyes.
Clap for him. He took 2 steps and was excited. Oh my! I mean, he did make the scene a little funny.
Yeah, it was okay. But you're gonna still vote for Little Richie if it was between him and Jaleel in a bikini contest.
Uh, whoa.
Sorry. If it was between who made the best mashed potatoes, it would be Little Richie. How about that, husband? Yeah.
I don't know if I would eat them, but I would be so happy that this cute kid made me some mashed potatoes.
All right. Think of your favorite vegetable. Little Richie is gonna make the vegetable better than Steve. How about that?
You know what? We'll go with that because you know what? Steve didn't even make it into my notes for the cold open. So
Okay. All right. I need that. Anything else you have for the cold open?
no, except the fact that I love our cold open for the first time ever bleeds into the first scene.
That was my first comment. I was like, whoa, that is a first. Usually the first scene is like completely different from what we see in the cold open, but nope, it picks up right where we left off, with Steve and Carl still playing cards. What did you think about this entire scene in the living room?
So I loved Eddie and Laura's little banter when they come in. And my favorite part about it, Eddie and Laura enter the scene, and Eddie's upset at Laura because Laura has put Jerry Curl mixer into his deodorant. And I just think that is hilarious.
So I'm naive. I thought that like when Eddie said, "Oh, you put Jerry curl in my deodorant," I've always thought of Jerry curl as like a hairstyle. Like I never knew that it could just be like sort of dialed down to like this spray can bottle thing or softener thing that you can just put on someone's deodorant. I looked it up online. Do you know how Jerry curls are made?
Yes, it's almost like a relaxer.
Okay. Because like I was like looking at a breakdown in case I wanted to bring the Jerry curl back. Why not? So they say number one, according to Microsoft Bing, buy Jerry curl supplies, whatever that means. You can find them in most drugstores. Number two, they say treat your hair with softener. Number three, apply the setting solution and roll your hair up in perm rods. Number four, leave the perm rods in for the specified amount of time and rinse well. And finally, number five, maintain the curls with the curl activator. So anytime someone said Jerry curl to me, I just thought, oh, that's just a hairstyle. That's the finished product. I never knew what went into it. So I had a kind of a question mark in my head when Eddie was crying out in disgust that Laura put this Jerry curl in the deodorant.
It's so cool. If you ever get a chance when you're out at, let's say, at any store, honestly, Walmart, wherever, go to the hairstyle aisle. And when you're in the hairstyle aisle, you'll see these boxes. In Walmart, they're typically on the lower shelves, but there's like people on front of them with like this shiny hairstyle. You'll see relaxers and perms, which are for straightening your hair. And then men get the opposite, a Jerry curl or a curl activator. So it doesn't look like the feminine product, but it's literally the exact same thing. And what it does is it chemically straightens your hair and then allows you to style it the way it'll stay in a Jerry curl. That's how you get those tight curls in a Jerry curl. And I think they look beautiful on the box. Just look at the boxes. You'll see all these beautiful black people on front of them. And that is the kit that you need for your Jerry curl.
Oh, well, you and I have shaved heads most of the time, so it'll take some work for us to get Jerry curls. But for you listening right now, if you have a whole messy head of black people hair and you don't know what to do with it, take a step back to 1984. Get yourself a Jerry curl.
Do it. And now, please follow the instructions because you will go bald if you do not use the neutralizing shampoo that is in there. You will literally get chemical burns, which is why I thought this was so hilarious that Eddie had Jerry curl in his deodorant. Because I could just imagine, one, either he gets a terrible chemical burn, or two, his underarm hair is shiny and glossy.
His underarm hair is going to look like Lionel Richie. I love it. Lionel Richie in your armpits. That is the dream. Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson. Who else had a Jerry curl? I can't remember. But Little Richard, I think, had a Jerry curl.
Yeah, think to America, you've seen one of the best Jerry curls in existence on Eddie Murphy's head. Awesome.
Yeah. Laura, by the way, she had a shirt in this scene that reminded me exactly like the shirt that Jazz would always wear in Fresh Prince. Do you remember, like, Jazz had that, God, it was like sort of like that African culture sort of looking shirt. And you always knew why he was wearing that shirt a lot because whenever Uncle Phil had to physically throw him out of the house, if you notice, like the outdoor scene where we see Jazz get thrown out of the house, he's always wearing that shirt. So take note, Andrew, or any other Fresh Prince fan. Anytime Jazz is wearing that shirt in Fresh Prince, he's going to get thrown out of the house because they want to save money from filming an exterior scene with a different shirt.
It's lovely. I didn't know that until years later rewatching it, that was the same shirt every time.
Yeah, yeah. And then Eddie threatens Laura with revenge on her, like revenge for the prank that Laura pulled on Eddie. Laura sarcastically says, like, oh, I'm going to buy boots so I can shake in them. Ooh, Eddie's coming out for me. Ooh, I'm scared. And then Steve's line, as he's playing cards with Carl, he gets up and he's clearly turned on by the idea of Laura in boots to the point where he's like shaking, like he's shivering from a bad cold. Ooh, Laura. Yes, I love that image. It was weird.
Steve's excited. He loves Laura and he wants to see Laura in new outfits, and we haven't gotten her in a cute boot yet, so he was excited.
Too excited. He's, there's teenagers who repress their puberty urges, and then there's Steve Urkel who just lets it out like a freak flag. It is quite interesting to see.
It's interesting. That made me laugh when he said it, because I'm like, even her just putting on some boots, you can't even just let that go.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe at this point in the scene, Carl and Laura find an excuse to leave. So now Eddie is alone with Steve in the living room, and Steve is having a man-to-man with Eddie, asking why he cannot succeed with Laura. And Eddie says, well, she's just playing hard to get. I was outraged by that line because I was like, nah. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he was kidding. Maybe I didn't get it. But automatic response of mine was like, really, dude? Like, this is your sister. You see how she cannot stand Urkel. Just tell him that that Laura doesn't like you.
I wanted the same thing. When Steve is like, oh, I don't know why she doesn't like me. I just want Eddie to say, because you're stalking her. That's why she doesn't like you. But I had a feeling we were getting geared up for a prank war. So I loved how Eddie played the scene so nonchalantly.
Yeah, because just like the card game, the best game is when you don't see what's coming from your opponent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, you did not see Darius's braces last time. If you didn't see Darius's braces this time, I don't know what to tell you, because there was a lot of points in this episode where he was smiling so much that his braces were just in full force.
His braces were definitely visible. Me, as somebody who used to work in orthodontics, I could tell that they were not clean. That's why they were very easy to see. So Eddie has ceramic braces on his teeth, which are supposed to be invisible, but after a while they do stain. So his braces, or at least the adhesive around them, was staining, and you could see it a lot more, but only if you're in the dental field would you really be looking at that.
This is why it's nice to have a dental person as a co-host, because I would never have known that. I just figured that, braces are going to stand out kind of no matter what, unless you have like very, very clear sort of Invisalign type braces. So the fact that you are able to detect a little detail like that, I think is absolutely amazing. Now, were you all in for the Eddie and Laura prank back and forth of it all, or were you like me, who likes to suck the fun out of things, and you thought, God, Eddie, you're letting Urkel make a pervy move on your sister while she's sleeping as a way to get back at... I just thought that there's Jerry curl with a deodorant. Sure, that is a sibling prank that seems fine in your younger years. And then it's like, oh, Steve, maybe sexually assault Laura while she's sleeping.
So I love pranks. I think pranks are amazing. I actually forgot that Myrtle was coming in this episode. So I was super excited. I was like, we're about to get a prank war between the two siblings. And then I realized, I was like, oh, it involves them. But I was like excited. I was happy because for me, this is an even tit for tat. You put Jerry curl in my deodorant? Who knows how that smelled, one? Maybe I smelled bad the entire day. I could have gotten chemical burns. I'm getting the person you hate to be around you all day long.
I disagree. I would think that like, oh, like maybe put yogurt in Laura's makeup thing, and then it turns out her face smells like yogurt all day. Like things like that. I don't know. I feel like when you're dancing with the intense, unhealthy, obsessive feelings of this gentleman that could have gone a step further had there not been this family-friendly sitcom surrounding. This is going to be a main course that I will mention as we move further into this recap. Steve did, of course, offer some great animated facial expressions. If you remember, Eddie was just painting the picture of like, oh, just imagine my sister Laura sleeping, vulnerable, waiting for your prey, and Steve is just like, like his he's just painting that picture in his head, and it's potentially dangerous, but hey, it's Family Matters. We can kind of tiptoe around sexual assault, but we're not going to go right at it.
You know, if it wasn't Steve, in real life, I would do this. In real life, I would do this. I would literally be like, to somebody who like hates being around a person, I'd be like, oh my God, they want to hang out with you so bad. And then I would set up a brunch and invite the person that they don't like to the brunch. And then I would, oh, you guys, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Something like that, because I'm going to get you back for doing that to me. The essay part of it, yeah, it should have been.
Yeah, I love how petty you are. Me, I'm just like, oh God, guys, can we get along? Can we like follow the rules? And you're just like, no. I'm gonna sneak up on you.
Petty Pendergrass is my damn name. Okay, I'm Batman Scoop today, but Petty Pendergrass is what people call me because I am petty as shit, and I would totally do that. I love prank wars. Prank wars are my thing, so I will prank you if you prank me. Just so you know.
Yeah. Anything else you had for this scene?
No, that was it for the scene for me. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh, wait, never mind. That counts as scene 2. Because I was going to say, oh my God, Steve in the tree.
Yeah, so my dessert is in this scene. This is where we're getting right into Laura's room while she's sleeping. Yes, believe it or not, even though I don't like the prank of it all, I still found moments that I enjoyed in this episode. What are your thoughts for scene 2 as Steve is going to make his serenade move at a sleeping Laura's place?
I just have one note here for this scene. For this scene, for me, I love that Steve decided to sing Feelings by Albert Morris. That was the best thing in the world. I thought he was going to do the typical 90s thing and stand out the window with holding a boombox in the air, playing like Peter Frampton or something. But the fact that he went to Feelings, I was like, sold. I'm like, this is hilarious.
I had no idea that Feelings was an actual song until I looked it up. So I believe it's Morris Albert. That's what Microsoft Bing tells me. I thought that this was a song that either Jaleel wrote originally or the Family Matters staff wrote for him. Never heard that song before. It just seemed like the way Steve was playing it on the accordion, like it seemed like a cheesy song that he would have just came up with himself. So it is my dessert, and I'll get to that moment. First of all, I was fixated on how Laura was presented as sleeping because she's sleeping face up on her back in the most unnatural way I've ever seen. Like arms are neatly aligned. She has this good girl Sound of Music PJ outfit on. It seemed like, oh, here is a proper Disney girl taking a nap. Boom. Like that's what I got from her.
That's how you sleep when you go to church. If you're a church person, that's the Christian sleeping position.
I was like, Laura, come on now. Like, you have your arms all flailed out, like, sleep on your stomach, like, sleep on your side, like, drool, like, be how most people are when they're sleeping.
Laura is a doll, okay? She's a doll, and she has to sleep just as pretty as she is when she's awake.
Now, put yourself in Laura's position. You have this Stephen Quincy Urkel climbing up to the window. He's serenading her with a not so quiet accordion to, again, the tune of Feelings by Morris Albert. Would you want to murder this person?
So people know not to wake me up because I will grab my little friend from under the bed and it's over.
Wait. What do you say, little friend under the bed? Like a weapon?
Yes.
Oh, you have a gun?
Yes, I do. If you're in my window and wake me up, you are going to meet Jesus tonight, okay?
You are going to be unalived just like that. Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling. Like you could sing softly with just your voice, just very whispery, but Steve just went full 100. He's just like, nope, I'm gonna bring out the accordion. I'm gonna wake up the dogs, the cats, the neighbors. It's gonna be a full thing.
I was more amazed with the fact that he was able to climb the tree with that thing. That's what threw me. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. But I am with you. If you wake me up from sleep, even with a whisper, we have issues. My sleep is precious.
I totally get it. That being said, it was hilarious. I thought that Steve's rendition of Feelings, I can't remember the lyrics. It was just something like, oh, feelings. Like you may know the song more than I do, but yeah, he was just very into it. Just the accordion, the surprisingly decent pitch in his voice, the cheesiness of the lyrics. I hope we can put a clip on this on our social media when we promote this episode. But yeah, that was my full on dessert. I was just laughing out loud when he did that.
I love it. I'm happy that that was a fun scene for you. How did you feel about the dogs waking up and Steve falling on top of the dog?
I was confused about that. So, yeah, I thought that naturally, if you're a dog and you have this strange human that you don't know falling on you, maybe you would either want to cry out in pain and I would hear it, or you want to like just chew Steve out like nobody's business. I was like wondering, like, oh my God, that poor Doberman. Like, because Steve, while he's not like the biggest human in the world, he's still like a full-bodied human, and that must be a lot of weight for a dog. Like,
Yeah, that poor dog.
yeah, seriously. And also, like, why? Um, so there was a moment where Laura got up and she was trying to shush Steve down, but Steve was just in a Stevie Wonder thing. He was just in his own little world, just singing, singing, singing. And I'm like, how do you not see Laura right in front of you, the love of your life, trying to shush you, get your attention? It was yeah, he was somewhere else.
Steve did it like he was a protester. You don't stop until you're forced to stop. So he's just like, I'm going to keep going until you tell me no more or push me out of this tree.
Yeah. Now, were you like me and you thought that gravity just did not make sense here? Because like when Laura finally got Steve's attention, his accordion tied to a rope falls forward to the ground, but he tied to the rope ends up falling backward. Is that how gravity works?
Um, Ooh, that's a question for Stephen Hawking's. Because I don't know technically if Steve should have been pulled down, but maybe he tried to be a counterweight and lean. Maybe that's what they're doing. Or maybe it's like a Tom and Jerry moment. You know, Tom would just do anything as Jerry gets him out of the way, and then you end up wrapped around a tree.
Yeah, possibly. Stephen Hawking, I think, is dead. So if he comes back from the dead and answers that question for us, that would be great.
John, just look to the stars.
I I see what you did there. I see what you did there. But great performance by Steve. The audience did give him a well-deserved round of applause at the end of that. I am hoping that that dog goes to the hospital ASAP. As someone who has 4 dogs, if you have just some strange human falling on top of you to the ground, I hear something like, "Oh, a dog broke my fall." I'm like, "What? Did the dog have his arms out, like ready for you? Like what the hell is going on there? A dog can't take that much." Uh,
That's such a colorful way to say, yes, I did hurt a dog. No humans were hurt, but a dog was.
so, can I say that the other part of my dessert, Carl's suggestive policeman shirts that he was wearing? Did you catch this first one? There's a second one coming on later on, but I believe it like when he comes in to Laura's room to see what the fuss is about, what the noise is about, he's wearing a shirt that says "Policemen make better lovers."
Yes, it's such a cute shirt. I have that in my notes. That's actually my dessert for the scene is his shirt. I love that.
So is it meant to be like cutesy wootsy innocent, or is it meant to have like a little bit of like, oh, like have a policeman in your bedroom? You'll never know what happens.
And both. I mean, for people reading it outside the bedroom, they're like, oh, haha, that's funny. In the bedroom, it's like, take those clothes off.
Show me your handcuffs, daddy.
Mhm.
Eddie is also coming in the room and he's just smiling, laughing all giddily, of course, because you see that his prank has followed through. And once again, his braces are just in full force for all of us to see. Uh, and I love that eventually we hear Steve still serenading Laura from outside, like he's just on the ground, probably broke a bone or two, but he still is singing feelings. And I think that this is where you still, I think you still hear like the dogs and the cats, like the dogs howling, the cats meowing, like, like stop disturbing our sleep. How neighbors did not like audibly report him at this point, I have no idea.
I am very surprised. I mean, I'm surprised Steve did not have a broken neck. But I am very surprised the neighbors weren't like, would you shut up already?
Yeah. I mean, I know the dog. I mean, a dog is someone, but a dog is not that strong to not break your neck. Did you know how, or did you notice, or did you think that Laura's room layout was weird? I couldn't help but notice that she had like this tiny child's bed that was pushed off to the side of the room. I mean, it looks like a bed that I feel like Rudy Huxtable, when she was like 3 in the beginning of the Cosby Show, that seems like her kind of bed. It doesn't seem like it would be the kind of bed that would fit a middle schooler. And because Laura's bed is pushed off to the side, I just noticed like really quick when the scene allowed me to that there was a lot of space in the center of the floor, like the center of the room. I don't know. Did you detect a weird layout thing or no?
I didn't detect it, but now that you describe it, it does make sense. They had so many people in the scene in a bedroom that it would be so spaced out like that, and the bed was tiny. I noticed something else about the room that calls into question some issues I had with the Winslow household that I'm going to talk about later.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to talk about it. And do you have anything else about this scene?
Nope, that is it for me.
How about scene 3? Scene 3, we get back into the kitchen. We start off with the Winslows eating dinner. What did you think about this one?
What I thought about this is I was surprised that so much of this episode takes place at nighttime. A lot of it takes place at nighttime. I think in total we get 2 moments where it's technically day. But it was fun to see them all at the dinner table, so happy that Steve Urkel is gone, to the point where Laura knows the exact mileage of how long, what far away this boy is from her. I love it.
So I found it to be a very abrupt pivot to what is going to be the main story of this episode. I thought that they would have done a better job gradually, like giving us a heads up that Steve. Well, now I mean, when we eventually know why Steve is gone, maybe that kind of conflicts with my point. But I think at first impression, before you see what's about to happen, I'm like, wait, what? Like Steve is just in town in Chicago, stalking the Winslows, stalking Laura as always, and then all of a sudden, like he's gone, he's out of town, like. Knowing that the focus was going to be on Myrtle and that, yeah, usually like Myrtle is a great opportunity to come in when Steve is not there. I just thought at first that Family Matters was doing like the most random abrupt pivot ever and not giving us like a gradual build up to it.
I did feel the same way because, again, I forgot that this was Myrtle's episode when I was watching it.
Yeah.
And I was like, Steve's gone. I'm like, oh, okay. Now, my excitement flourished from there because, again, I was like, okay, so Steve's gone. This means the next prank is going to be even better.
It could be. Now, Richie had mentioned that, like, oh, Steve was supposed to take me slug hunting. Do you know anything about slug hunting? I've heard that they're used for like hunting medium-sized game, especially white-tailed deer hunting. They're for areas that are too densely populated for rifle hunting. I was like, what? This is a new thing for me. And I live in Vermont where there's a lot of hunting going on.
I know what slug hunting is. I've done it a bunch as a kid. So for me, I was like, oh, moment that's relatable now. We never took the slugs to go hunt deers because I was a kid. But I mean, in Texas, as a kid, you could have a gun. So it's like I could have gone deer hunting after that. But me and my friends, we would walk around with our little clear pail. We would find slugs everywhere, pick them up and put them in a little pail and take them home.
Interesting. So they're not just like these like disgusting bug things that you just kind of step on or avoid. You could use them to kill things.
Well, that's called murder. Let's not just go around stepping on slugs, please.
But they're ugly and they deserve it, Andrew.
They are ugly, they are slimy, they are gross, but they deserve their place in this world too.
Mm. All right. Now, I was in my whole Bing hunting search, I was surprised to find out that like there really is no minimum age, at least on the federal level, to hunt. I just figured like when there was talk about hunting, it was like, oh, Don't you have to be like 17 or 18 with like a gun permit to do that kind of stuff? And it's like, no federal age limit. But for a hunting license, I think they say you have to be at least 10 years old, which is just bizarre to me because I just have this naive portrait of kids just being very not knowledgeable on the wise ways of using weapons like that. But I don't know.
I mean, it's almost like getting your fishing license. There's certain places in the country you have to have the license to go fishing and actually keep the fish and take them home. Kind of like the same thing when it comes to being a kid and going hunting. Now, I would go hunting with my dad all the time, and my dad deer hunts. And for you to go along on the hunt, my dad was always like, well, it's best that you know what to do. Getting your hunting license, you've got to go to classes so you learn some of the safety protocol, like wearing your fluorescent vest. If you're out bow hunting, that's with the bow and arrow, you want to be careful, and there's special regulations for that. And then you also have to know what you can hunt at that time. So it's encouraged, especially for families who depend on hunting for their food supply, that kids get out there and learn it too.
Interesting. How did you feel about the setup for Steve being gone? Let me see if I got this correct.
Loved it because Laura gave me my second piece of dessert when she chimes in with the line of Steve is exactly 783.6 miles away.
Yeah, which is a very specific mileage. I agree. That's a lot of mileage. If I remember correctly, they had explained, Carl, Harriet, Laura, whoever, Steve's accordion playing when he serenaded Laura the other night, it irritated the neighbors so much that they threw bricks at the house, and his parents thought, oh, you know what, Steve, how about you go away out of town for a few days to be with other relatives for a while? So two things on that. One, yes, I understand the neighbors being cranky. Throwing bricks at someone's house, I don't know. I think that, especially with racially related things associated with throwing bricks at people's house, I do kind of have like a jump reaction to it. But it's very violent. Lives could be threatened, so don't do that. And two, sending Steve away for 2 weeks and then what? Like you're going to eventually bring him back and he's going to just magically know that serenading Laura the way he did was wrong. I didn't believe it for 1 second. I thought, parents, you're terrible. This is what you should do. Either have a discussion with your child or just set up the therapy.
Because we know Herb and Diane are terrible people, I thought that this was probably the better option of what they would have done to their child.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, they sent him away maybe because they were just so angry. They're like, we don't know what to do with you, Steve. And there's a brick sitting in my bathroom right now.
Wait a minute. Which are you talking about? A literal brick? Are you talking about a poop brick? I mean, because, people call poops brick. I'm about to lay a brick in the toilet. You never heard that before?
I have never heard that before.
There you go.
Wow. I have been calling people bricks this entire time in my life. And I was calling them poop.
Yeah, you're calling them shits, which I guess is appropriate. I mean, if you're saying brick as an insult, then yeah, poop lines right up with it.
I love how people talk about how they take shits. It's amazing. I mean, I got to go see a guy about a horse. I'm going to go lay a brick. I didn't know that. Now I love that.
There you go. The more you know. And then gets the entrance of Steve's cousin, Myrtle Urkel. She's got this yellow-black church girl / Southern belle dress on. She's got ponytails. She's got what do you call those white ribbon bow things at the end of her ponytails that sort of match with the yellow and white of it all. The audience woos Myrtle like she's a sexual object because this audience is weird. They applaud because like, whoa, oh my God, Jaleel's dressed up as a girl. We're going to get more entertainment. Yay!
I did like the entrance of Myrtle. I forgot that yellow dress looks so freaking cute. It is a period piece dress, and I love that thing.
It reminds me of pudding, Andrew. I know you don't like it, but it's like that sort of tapioca vanilla. You know what? No, it reminds me of yellow tapioca vanilla pudding with whipped cream on top.
Oh, okay. That sounds pretty decadent.
Yeah, I will lick the pudding, not Myrtle, at some point in my life. Anyway.
If you describe pudding like that to me, I might have to give it a try.
There you go. You will not regret it. And Myrtle's entrance does not make sense, of course, in the grand scheme of things. But I will commend will commend Sally and Pamela. It's a great scene ender because at the same time you're just like, what the fuck just happened, and I gotta watch more to see how they're gonna deal with this.
Yes, I was enthralled at that point. I'm like, oh, we get Myrtle. And boom, I got to see what happens next. Because I forgot that that entrance was so cute.
And anything else you got for this scene?
Not for this one, because we get into Myrtle at this dinner table, and I love it.
Yeah, we get back into the kitchen for scene 4. What are your thoughts?
We learn about the Urkel exchange program. That was the part that was like the highlight for me. Because I'm like, wait, so Steve is gone, so they sent Myrtle. Now, this whole time while watching the scene, they hadn't gotten to that exact phrasing yet. And I
Yeah,
was like, so what? We've got a Urkel exchange program. And then I forgot who said it, and I just screamed.
it was Rachel. It was Rachel, and I did highlight that in my notes. I thought that that was a great, memorable way to describe what was going on. So yeah, it kind of gets us into the explanation of why Myrtle is there. So uh, she's coming in unannounced, without knocking first, at least, a la Steve. And I believe the logic is that Steve told her all about the Winslows while she was in her hometown of Biloxi, Mississippi. And just when Steve is out of town, I guess Myrtle initially, before like we got into the Urkel exchange details of it all, I thought, wait a minute, did Myrtle just decide to randomly make the long ass trip from Biloxi to Chicago and pay a visit to these people she's only heard about? For reference, I mean, if she got there by car, it's about a 13-hour drive. She could have gotten there by plane. I don't know the whole rules about like if children can go unaccompanied on a plane or whatnot, but uh, in the beginning of this scene, it was kind of getting fuzzy and confusing to me why Myrtle is just there.
Yeah, it was confusing to me too. The fact that she felt comfortable enough to just walk into the Winslow's household was one of the things where I'm like, okay, we've got a major continuity error here. What is happening?
Yeah. And what I did also notice, compared to Myrtle's later appearances, did you notice that her delivery, her vocal delivery, is like more soft-spoken Southern Belle? Like later on in the show, I think she's like, "Oh, I like my man's." Like she just like really goes all out with the character, Jaleel, that is. But for now, we're getting sort of like a Blanche Dubois, streetcar, and kindness of strangers, like that kind of thing.
This is perfect. This is exactly what Southern women do. I thought he did it so perfectly because that's what happens when you meet a Southern belle. You're going to meet her and she's going to be airy and light, very demure, very cute, very mindful. And then once you get to know her, she curses like a sailor. She treats you like a housewife or like a mother of the church. And that's exactly what Myrtle Urkel did. And it was so good.
So you spending time in Texas, I wonder, like, is that Southern Belle thing? Did you ever see that in person, or is that just a thing that's like stuck in like the Civil War era?
Now, walking around with what Myrtle had on, you only see that in high schools where they celebrate lynching and cotton picking.
Hmm.
Real, like nobody walks around dressed like that, except if you're going to one of those parties. And I'll just say those parties, you can Google it, and you see people in these like plantation dresses, is kind of what they were called. And that's what you would see there. Now, I've never met a single person except in a costume store dressed like that. If you do see someone like that down south, go the other direction.
That would be the smart thing to do. Laura has a very confused face, with like the sassy fist in her back. She just has the greatest posture when she's asking Myrtle how long she's going to be around, and those bangs. I was just noticing that Laura has like some nice bang activity on the head.
Oh, that Bayang was beautiful. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I had to bring it back. Bayang is back, okay, just for this episode.
I That's the first time I've heard. So I've heard it called bangs, but bang, like that's I've never heard that before.
Shine, I am going to send you the video of Bayang, and I want you to watch it, and then we are going to post that on social media. Oh my God, it is so good.
So who says it? What's it about? Why do they say bang?
So this girl, she made the song about having a bang, and she said, "My bang is here," and I screamed. I can't do it because her voice is so iconic for it. It's like Batman Scoop. If you
Yeah.
hear Bayang and you've seen the Bayang trend, you will just laugh. You'll laugh. It started with, I think, Lil Yachty, and then this girl got in on it, and it's just so funny. And people were showing pictures of themselves with bangs as kids. Because if you had that bang like Laura had, that means you went to church.
Yeah, for sure. My sister definitely had those bangs, and I associate them with acne. There's just something about like the grease from those bangs that I've noticed in like young Black girls produces easy acne on their forehead.
It's gonna clog your pores, especially if you got that Motion solution in there. Motions is oil heavy moisturizer, and it's going to cause your pores to clog, and you're gonna get pimples there.
Yeah, that's awful. So at this point in the scene, we get an explanation of the Urkel exchange program that Rachel has brought up. Myrtle's parents agreeing to take Steve for 2 weeks if Steve's parents would agree to take Myrtle. But of course, we know Myrtle's not spending any time with her, but Diane. She's going to be all over the Winslows, just like Steve would be. And then Eddie enters. He apologizes for being late for dinner. And then now we get the introduction of Myrtle's romantic obsession with Eddie. She greets him with a holy shitlin and adjusts her chest because she has pretend titties. That's, I'm like looking at Jaleel. I'm like, I mean, at least the costume people could have given you like some little pillows to stuff there, but yeah, I don't know. I just found it very cute and funny how Myrtle was just like, oh, let me adjust my nipples.
John, you never adjusted your tits. Like sometimes you just gotta give them a good pull. You gotta like cup them, know that they're ready. Like it is a thing. Like I do it subconsciously. I wasn't even trying to do it just now, and you just boom, you gotta adjust them.
I pinch them for fun sometimes, and I pick out the hairs, but I don't like do it in like a. I, I don't. I don't like sexually adjust them waiting for time. Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 I mean, I sometimes pinch them. My wife's. I know. I know. I know. I'm odd. Sometimes I have too much time on my hands, and I just like to, pinch my nipples and pull out the hairs. That's just what I do. I have weird anxious habits, and yeah.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
Oh God.
That's all right.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, no, that's all I do with my titties. And maybe I should go to a class and learn how to, sexualize them.
I mean, sometimes it's just a comfort thing, but I guess you can do it.
Woo! Anyway,
Together myself.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Oh God. And yeah, of course the audience is booing and laughing and loving. Excuse me. Audience is booing and laughing and loving every moment of Myrtle's fixation on Eddie. And, Myrtle and Eddie, they hold hands. Myrtle says flirtatiously, like, Eddie, that name flows off my tongue like honey. And I know, like, Myrtle's big Myrtle, but I was like, really? Eddie? Like, just seems like a very straightforward boy name. Like something like Douglas. Like, Douglas. That would be sexy. But Eddie? Like, what can you do with Eddie?
Like, Eddie, you're so cute, Eddie. Like, yeah, it's not that sweet of a name to say. A Douglas, if I meet a Douglas, I'm gonna be like, so we gotta talk about this name.
Yeah, because Douglas is stupid. Like, Douglas. Like, it just has a sweet, syrupy thing to it.
I can see that. I mean, it's almost like when people say Joe Nathan, it's like, no, your name is Jonathan. Calm it down.
Do people actually say Joe Nathan?
Yes. Oh my God. I've met people who do it, and I used to do it just for fun. To be like, no, I'm Joe Nathan. And people are like, what the hell? And if you read it, and it's like, no, that's just Jonathan, girl.
Well, as someone whose birth name is Jonathan, I'm so offended. That's the stupidest way you could try to make your name sound very suave, because it's a common name. It's a name in the Bible. I mean, there's a million Jonathans on the planet Earth. There's nothing you can do to make it original. Just accept Jonathan and move on.
I'm going back to Joe Nathan now. When I introduce myself, because that is my middle name, I do like I'm Joe Nathan.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so Myrtle, so Laura, she's grinning. We get a couple scenes of this, but this is the first one. Laura is grinning after that Eddie honey line. And I was wondering if that was like in character, or did Kelly almost break when we saw that split shot of her grinning?
I'm pretty sure that Kelly broke character multiple times this episode. Every time Myrtle is in a scene, you can see her fighting laughter And I think she just broke character because the camera kind of cut away from her pretty fast at that point.
Okay. All right. That makes sense now. And Carl and Harriet, they're just quietly chuckling at the kitchen table in the background. And I'm confused because if it was me, I'd be like, oh, aren't you a little freaked out by this like random little young Southern belle coming up and uh, getting ready to sexually assault your son? Like, get this crazy loon out of the house.
I mean, part of me felt that way too. I was watching and I was like, so they're just gonna sit there and watch.
Yeah.
But then I had to remember, y'all were okay with Laura being auctioned off to another person. So this is just natural for the family.
Yeah, this is par for the course. We do see a Myrtle Steve parallel when Myrtle's body vibrates from just the slightest contact with Eddie. There was a moment, God, I think maybe Myrtle was trying to get Eddie to like kiss her hands and Eddie wouldn't do it, but like Myrtle had like some close contact with the mouth and she's just like, oh my goodness. Like it was just the same way Steve would just, oh, Laura, boot. Oh.
We got that good duality where I was laughing. I'm like, when she put her hand out, and I'm like, oh, this is the best. The shaking and mannerisms perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think we end the scene with Myrtle to Eddie. She says something like, oh, my lips are on fire. How do you feel about me, sugar? And then Eddie just makes like a soft run to the living room. Not a hard run, not a regular run, but just like sort of like a soft jog run to the living room.
He did, but when I saw it, I was like, okay, I get why he ran like that because if he were to do a full on run, one step and he would have been out of the scene. He is gigantic compared to everybody else there. So there would have been no run.
He's a grown ass man. Anything else in this scene?
No, that's it. Except for Eddie's shirt. It was super cute. I thought it was a very cute shirt that he had on.
Eddie had some interesting shirts, but the shirt that he had in the final scene, let's get into that one because that was a fucking bizarre shirt. But as of now, let's go to scene 5. We're back in the kitchen. Any thoughts about that?
This is the best scene of the episode.
This is the best scene? Okay, yeah. Because I believe this is the one where like Myrtle really makes herself at home. She's with Harriet and Rachel in the kitchen doing nails, that kind of thing.
They're doing nails, and Myrtle, just like a typical Southern woman, read Rachel for her lipstick color. And the way she did it was so good. Like, oh, that lipstick isn't for you. And then when Rachel says, well, I've been wearing it for 5 years, the response of like, for 5 years, you look bad, girl, is essentially what she said. And I screamed.
Yeah, I believe it was, yeah, 5 lonely years you've been wearing that shade. Oh, God.
It took me. I loved it. This scene is actually going to be, I didn't know if I should denote this as just more dessert or my main course. So this is going to be my like dessert entree is what I'm going to call it because I got fun and full off of this one scene.
Really? Interesting. Now, Myrtle has a red and white country church dress. That stood out to me. Her head is filled with hair curlers. She's doing Harriet's nails. Myrtle clearly ready to make enemies with Rachel. We've already established that. And then Carl enters. I love how Harriet and Rachel are just like, oh, please come, sit, have some female bonding time. Because, yeah, the first thing a straight married man wants to do is see a bunch of women doing nails. Oh, yeah, that's my crowd. Let's do that.
See, that's why you straight men don't know all the gossip. Y'all don't go get your nails done. Go sit down with the girls and get your nails done. You will learn about life.
You know what? I see that. And yeah, I mean, it's my fingernails tend to be very sharp even when I cut them myself. So I probably could use some nice filing. My feet are dried up and disgusting, and no one should touch them. But I think for the sake of listening to some valuable Chicago town gossip, sure, touch my feet, file them. Let's go.
Yes, you should be getting manicures and pedicures weekly, at least once a week. Go get something done and then take care of yourself at home, straight men. You can do this. But if you want to know the gossip, you go with the girls to get your nails done. That is when all the guards are let down.
All right. Now you've got my interest peaked there. Harriet's facial expression and posture. Love it. Harriet has the best postures and facial expressions. This is when, after she jokes to Myrtle that she can take Carl back to Biloxi with her, and Myrtle was just like, no, there's only one Winslow man that butters my biscuit. And Harriet specifically, she has her arm on her hip, leaning on the kitchen counter. She has her face drooped and bent downward toward Myrtle and looking at her like, huh? What is this little girl saying about my boy?
Harriet was ready to fight for Eddie. She was like, you're not taking my baby.
Yeah. And I wonder what Joe Marie was thinking, because as we know, that often repeated backstage story of Joe Marie and Reginald essentially scolding Jaleel behind the scenes, telling him that him playing Myrtle would be a disgrace to the Black race. Poor Jaleel had to cry because he thought that he was taking the entire Black race down with him just by playing this Southern Belle cousin.
I can only imagine. To me, still, that is probably the worst thing I've ever heard about Family Matters. To this day, it still bothers me that they had that energy and put it on a child. And to the other part of it, you're not embarrassing the Black race because there's multiple other Black people who are in existence who are not doing that. So it still agitates me because it's one of those stupid things that has been said throughout the years. But throughout the scene, you could not tell that. Throughout the entire episode, you couldn't tell that they felt disdain towards that. And I attribute that to their acting ability.
Yeah, the show must go on. They kept their professionalism. That is wonderful. And while Myrtle is buttering Eddie up in conversation to his own mother, I love how she clearly does not know how to smoothly take her hair curlers out. She just, that is a complete mess. And she just makes her glasses all crooked. And it's ironic because it's a boy playing this character. And I'm like, you put a boy in this situation, this is exactly how he would take his hair curlers off. He would just make a big mess out of it.
So this is the funniest moment in the entire episode for me.
Yeah.
I was laughing so hard when he's trying to take this roller out of his head. I'm laughing now thinking of it because he grabs the roller. And yes, like a boy, you don't think, let me take off the cover of the roller and then get the hair out. And I just screamed. I was laughing. It was so funny because when he pulls the roller, the wig slides to the side and his glasses come down.
Yeah. It's just like some kind of faulty machinery thing going on. It's like, nope, you got to like put your glasses this way if you want the curler to go that way. And it was great. I loved it. I loved it. And then Myrtle's delicate Southern Belle laugh mixed in with that Urkel snort. I forgot how it was. I think it was like like it was like that. And I don't know who came up with that, Sally, Pamela, Jaleel, but it makes sense. You give a little bit of an Urkel and then you add in that Southern Belle twist to it.
Yeah, it was a good mix where I'm like, okay, I can see this as a character that's completely independent, but still has the traits of an Urkel.
Yeah. Did you catch that Civil War reference that Myrtle made? Like, remember when she was talking about Eddie? I'm gonna take that boy like Grant took Richmond.
I did not even hear that. I may have still been laughing at the rollers.
That's okay. That's okay. So that is in reference to Ulysses S. Grant, who was essentially the leader of the North side of the Civil War. And yeah, I believe that the North took Richmond. It was once part of the Confederacy, and it became a part of the North, along with, I think, everything else.
Yeah, I mean, is Fort Sumter in Richmond? Yes, it is. It was Fort Sumter, I think they said.
Yeah, gotcha. God, I cannot imagine what we wouldn't like. We literally would not be called the United States of America if it wasn't for how the Civil War ended, because it used to be like, oh, the Northern States of America, the Confederate States of America. So yeah, it's just pretty bizarre to think that like, oh, here's this war, and it pretty much decided the fate of the country for the next, I don't know, 200 years or something.
It did. I mean, technically the Civil War never ended. If you listen to people who live down south, it's still happening. The South will riot again. But I'm happy that that war happened because it led to America, the country that we know as the dumpster fire, and I kind of like it.
I thought you were going to say like, oh, I'm glad the war happened because America is perfect because of it. No racism. Slavery ended. We're all kumbaya.
Maybe if I was Byron Donald, that would have been my answer, but not me.
All right. So Laura's wearing a very flowery Hawaiian-like shirt in this scene, which doesn't make sense because it's late fall in Chicago. But okay, I guess Laura is already ready for the summertime.
She was feeling her summer vacation when she walked in with that shirt, which the pants matched perfectly, and her hair in that bang-yang. I was like, she is ready for vacation.
That bang yang 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 in the Bahamas. So Rachel and Harriet, they see an exit opportunity to let Myrtle be with her dumpling, Eddie. And I laughed when Eddie tried to excuse himself by claiming he has homework. And Harriet was just like, oh, no, 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 that's okay. I'll do it for you. Probably the only time you're going to ever hear a mother say that. And also, I was just kind of like, wanting to cry out to Rachel and Harriet. Guys, Eddie, he could be assaulted. We stand up adults and stop it from happening.
I can get Harriet and Rachel leaving the scene. When Harriet said, I'll do it, Eddie's homework, I laughed. That was so funny how she got up and was like, you don't have to worry about it, son. She is so terrible. I will go do your homework. And I screamed. But I don't blame them. I would have ran too.
Yeah. God, if only we could all be touched by people that we don't want to be touched by, just so we could pass school without having to put any effort into it. Oh, God, wouldn't that be the life? And Laura is just standing by the back porch door. She's smiling again. So
She's in a full-on happy state.
So this is not breaking, you think? This is actually like Kelly in character as Laura smiling.
Now, I think that this is Kelly in character smiling because she was preparing for what was going to happen with her setting up a prank on Eddie.
Yeah, she was looking at Eddie and Myrtle with that smile. Oh, Eddie, you got me almost sexually assaulted? How about I get you almost sexually assaulted?
Very good prank logic. See, you get it, Jon.
Okay.
And also, Laura was like reveling in the fact that y'all have seen me be uncomfortable around Steve for who knows how long, technically in the Family Matters universe. Now I get to watch you be uncomfortable.
And boy, does Eddie become uncomfortable. So Myrtle does a romantic feint to get Eddie to catch her, but she just ends up taking a clumsy, hard fall to the ground, maybe somewhat like Steve's fall had the dog not been there to catch him. And the poor hair curlers are falling out as Myrtle fell to the ground, and it gives Eddie an opportunity to exit to the living room. And I just found it just really odd how Laura, I mean, I guess you would expect it because Laura's trying to prank Eddie, but I was just like, what? Instead of making sure your brother doesn't get hurt by Myrtle, she goes over to Myrtle and be like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? That assault was not successful. Are you okay? Can I pick you up?
Laura did what I would have done. I was preparing for a prank. One, when Myrtle swooned, I screamed. Southern women swooning is going to happen. They're going to faint because they have the vapors and they're just going down. And when she went down, I laughed. And Eddie just not catcher. Urkel did a great job on that. And then when Laura just kind of steps in like, hey, doll, are you okay? She was like summoning her inner mean girl to set up a prank. And I loved it.
Oh, I got the vapors. And I'm not talking about what I smoke. Anywho, so we get to the moment where Laura, like, she lays it all out to Myrtle. Hey, Eddie really likes you, but is just shy. So how about you work harder and show up to Eddie's room while he's sleeping and serenade him? Oh, deja vu. Eddie did the same thing to Laura with Steve earlier, so tables have turned. And I love Myrtle's line to Laura when she's almost about to give up on Eddie. Do you remember this one? I mean, I think I've emptied my ammo clip of seduction.
That was a great line. Y'all wrote a fantastic joke there.
Pamela and Sally know how to write a metaphor. I was like, ammo clip of seduction. You're combining violence and love and the same thing, which is sexual assault, but that's another story.
Oh, but we're talking about love bullets. She's like, keep it with an AK, and I loved it.
There you go. Anything else for this scene?
No, this was it, because the fall gag was the thing that took me out in this scene.
Oh, yeah. We get to Eddie's room. I didn't know that they were going to be doing this as much as they did. That Myrtle is about to make her move as Eddie is sleeping. What are your thoughts about this scene, baby?
I thought that this was a great scene. I am still trying to figure out, how did nobody hear Myrtle? One, ripping off the siding of the house, then going to get a ladder, and the ladder falling down. The falling portions kept getting me, but it was when the grappling hook, I lost it.
Yeah. So first of all, Eddie sleeps more comfortably than Laura. Like, he sleeps casually. That's great. He has I'm so jealous of his comforter. Like his comforter looks so big and plushy and just, ugh, I wish I could just curl inside and just cuddle up, not with Eddie, but just like with my wife. I just want to go back to 1990 and take that comforter and bring it back here and then cuddle up with my wife.
Do it. We're going back in time so you can snatch this comforter because it did look very comfortable.
Yeah. So yes, as we established, Myrtle has first time around, she's found this wooden ladder conveniently to climb up to Eddie's room. And she's got her what is it, a dark purple dress? She's got the makeup on, the ponytails and everything. She's all dressed up, ready to go. She doesn't make it successfully. She falls to the ground with the ladder. She screams like Steve as she falls to the ground. I noticed that. Steve didn't quite know how to scream like Myrtle yet. I think it was like like that kind of a thing.
It was.
And dumbass Eddie, of course, he's such a heavy sleeper that he didn't hear that. That just seems like any teenage boy. Like if they can sleep well, they can sleep through a house fire.
I'm seeing. I am seeing. I slept through a car blowing up behind our house, so I get it.
Were they okay? And did you feel guilty about sleeping through it?
I felt upset because my dad told me after it happened, but then of course he was like, Andrew, nobody wakes you up. So I could understand my dad, and I think the person died. But it was like such an epic moment that I'm like, why didn't you wake me up to see a car exploding?
Okay. So what do we know why the car exploded? Did someone just have a bomb in the car and then they had
that portion was not our business. We're a Black family and we just stay indoors. If you hear something blow up, you do not run towards it.
Yeah. Because if you run towards it, then the cops could easily implicate you. So stay away, be like, in case the officers show up at the door, hey, I was inside my house, I was sleeping, I got the proof.
Yeah, they come to the door. What car? Cars? When did that happen? What's a car?
What is that thing? I ride a horse and buggy.
I have no idea what a car is.
Exactly. Exactly. So fade to Myrtle's second ladder attempt. So the first wooden ladder did not work. I love how Myrtle gets a metal ladder this time and thinking that will make the difference. It does not, alas, and Myrtle falls again with this metal ladder, and then we get a complete fade to black this time, because I think the other moment from the first to the second time, it was like a more casual, subtle fade, but this one was like a fade to black, which I guess ends this scene, and then we get to scene 7, where the grappling hook comes in. But first, we get a shot of the window of Eddie's room that night. We hear a dog barking. I wonder if it's the same Doberman that almost got killed by Steve's incoming falling body.
Most likely that Doberman's back out there and like, don't you fall on me again.
That poor Doberman is so fucking like just fed up with these Urkels disturbing his sleep. He's just like, what can I do? What can I do to get some peaceful sleep?
But I also have something to say to the owners of that Doberman. Why is your dog outside right now? If your dog's a barker, take your dog inside. It's dark.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's some old school people that think that their dogs only belong outside. They should have a dog house. In Vermont, we have old school straight men that do that. And my wife, working in the vet world, is just like, oh. Like, bring your dogs inside.
Yes, bring your dog. Even if you don't want your dog sleeping in your bed or upstairs, put a dog house downstairs with the dog. The dog will know to go in there. Don't leave your dog outside. So whoever that is, I feel bad for that dog.
Yeah. Now, grappling hook scene. Tell me your thoughts about this one. It seems like you really love this one.
I just love the grappling hook. When I saw this big grappling hook fly through the window, I just laughed.
Myrtle's resilient.
I was like, where did she get a grappling hook first? And you had got some great arm strength to get it all the way to the attic level of the Winslow's house. I screamed.
How much does a grappling hook weigh?
The one that was that size had to be a few pounds.
Wow. All right, let me look that up right now, because that is something that... How much does a grappling hook weigh? That varies. Some could be like 21 ounces, but yeah, it varies. So Myrtle is able to get through the window successfully this time with that grappling hook. And boy, do we see her get through that window clumsily. Like, you just see her legs all spread open. You see the torn up black stockings from her dress. Just the world is going to see everything about Myrtle. And then once she finally gets to the room, she bops her hair up a little bit. She's trying to get ready for Eddie. And it was funny to me because bobbing hair is not going to do anything about your dress being torn up from the floor up. And, your hair is just all over the place. I mean, she's trying. I will give her credit for being resilient in the face of adversity.
She tried, you like a Southern woman, you always gather yourself. You gather yourself as best you can and you come in with biscuits. But she was so messed up that everything's destroyed. And I thought that was even funnier. Like I was still laughing after the grappling hook. But then when I saw her try to adjust the dress and you just see this huge cut down center of it, it's like, there's no point. But it was hilarious. By the way, that dress was ugly. So it deserved to be destroyed.
It reminded me of something that Harriet wore, only in color, though, not in like the form of the dress. But I felt like, it reminded me of one of Harriet's Girl Scout cookie things. Or maybe Laura had a similar purplish dress like that, or a similar dress in tone when she was in the Laura's First Date episode, getting ready to go to the dance, something like that.
The dress she wore that had the kind of poofy burgundy-ish color to it looks very similar to that dress.
Okay. So Eddie finally wakes up to Myrtle almost sexually assaulting him, and then Eddie is trying to get away from her within the small confines of his room. Carl and Harriet and Laura, they're coming in, trying to see what all the commotion is all about. Another dessert. Carl's second suggestive cop PJ shirt, Frisk Me.
I love it. I have the same shirt. I bought it when I was 16, and I love it.
Yeah. Now, did you buy it because you were trying to be all like, ooh, or you love law enforcement?
Oh, neither.
Yeah.
So I worked at a store that sold shirts that had all kinds of prints on them, and one of them said "Frisk Me" on it. I didn't know what frisk meant at the time, but the shirt only cost me 50 cents, so I bought it and I wore it all the time.
Interesting. And then Eddie tells his family to get Myrtle out of here because she's crazy. And Myrtle says, crazy about you, you big hunk of hominy. Now, you being from the South, you know what hominy is, right?
I do know what it is, and I will never eat it.
I didn't know what it was, not being from the South. It's coarsely ground corn used to make grits.
I find it to be very gross. Just give me normal grits that are already in their normal form. Hominy is not for me.
So why is Myrtle describing Eddie as if that's honey?
Well, because I mean, it's a good Southern meal. You get some eggs and hominy, a little bit of bacon. You're going to be full all day long. And on top of that, it's pretty good if you like that.
I'll have to look into it. And I love how Myrtle waits until Eddie rejects her in front of the whole family at this time of night to be like, you know what? I'm a lady. You're not worth sexually assaulting.
She went out like a Southern woman.
I guess, yeah. Myrtle somehow thinks it was safe to just make a leap out of the leap that she made out of the window without the assistance of a rope or a ladder, and the scream that she made. So it was a girl scream this time. Julia was like as he went to the ground as Myrtle. What did you think of? I mean, you were laughing just now, so you must have thought that was great. But I was like, woman, 3 times you tried to get through Eddie's window, ladder after a ladder, and then the grappling hook, and you thought, all right, whatever, I'm just gonna leap out of the window, and then everything will be fine. That poor Doberman probably got crushed again.
It was perfect because at that point she's like, well, he doesn't want me, and I know that this fall isn't going to kill me, so who cares?
I mean, I would think that the fall could kill her. Like the way that she leapt out like that, I mean, she could have been face front, planted to the ground.
Well, I mean, she's fallen off the top of the ladder 3 times now, so if the 3rd time didn't kill her there, I'm just going to jump.
Wow. Oh, by the way, speaking of the main thing of this scene, I think Carl sums up the absurdity of this scene when he looks at the grappling hook and says, "A grappling hook." So we know it doesn't belong. We know it doesn't belong to the Winslows. We know that Myrtle just got it from somewhere.
That's the part that's hilarious. Carl's like, I can't even get one of those as a police officer. So how in the world did you get that?
Yeah. And this is where my main course comes in. When Carl and Harriet scold Eddie and Laura for playing these pranks on each other, to me, it makes zero sense. Because I was asking myself, where was your lecture when you were trying to escape Steve and Myrtle? And when you were laughing at Eddie and Laura's expense when these two were all over them without their consent. You know what I mean? Like that line, you used Steve and Myrtle and you hurt their feelings. I just thought it was misguided. I was like, no, no. I mean, it's non-consensual obsession from both these Urkels, and you had the opportunity as adult parents to step in and stop it from happening. But no, you just kind of enabled it by just kind of laughing it off and exiting because you didn't want to have to deal with their talkity nonsense. And this is what happened. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it should be Eddie and Laura's fault.
I'm with you. I don't think it's Eddie and Laura's fault. That portion of the scene is actually my junk food, where I was like, we didn't need this. Like, we actually didn't need this at all. I don't feel like Eddie and Laura should have been scolded. I don't feel like Eddie and Laura actually did anything wrong when it comes to the prank war. They did not do anything malicious to anybody. They weren't trying to hurt anybody. Everybody who participated willingly went along with it. They just were suggestive. So I didn't feel like any of this was warranted for them to get scolded the way they got scolded. I think the Winslows were just upset that they got woken up from their sleep and wanted a way to scold the children and make it their fault.
Mm-hmm. Parents, sometimes they don't know how to raise their kids.
Yes, because if we really wanted to care about Urkel's feelings, you know what would have happened? We would have told him at the beginning of the season, do not come to our home, go back home.
There you go. Go back home to your parents who know how to treat you so well. God. So yeah, that's my main course. Just the bizarreness of like sexual assault prank after sexual assault prank, and we're going to scold the people that created the pranks instead of the people that have the unhealthy obsession that could have led to a assault of some sort. That's my main course, was just like, whoa, that's a big theme, Sally and Pamela. That's a big theme. Before we get into scene 8, I got to mention this as my junk food because I don't think we're ever going to mention it. Do you want to know what my junk food is? Can you guess?
Please tell me it's not Harry telling them the birds are grounded.
No, it's actually someone. It's actually someone that you would not expect. Someone who had no significance whatsoever in this episode.
Who?
Yes. Who is the only character that is in this episode that provides nothing of value at all? Starts with a J.
Jay?
The youngest Winslow child.
Was Judy in this episode?
Yes, she was. Yes, she was.
Where was she?
She was in the kitchen scene. I think the first kitchen scene when the Winslows were eating dinner, and it just happened so fast. She just says, "You got it." Like she just mumbles, "You got it" in response to something, and that's it. And I had in the back of my mind, I was like, that's probably the only time Judy's going to say anything in this episode. That's it. She just said, "You got it" in response to something, and that was it. And I want to stand up for Judy, and I didn't want her to be my junk food, but all roads led to her because literally every single other character in this episode had something to offer, had something of value. Little Richie with his cute child actor thing, he had the playing cards thing, the bedtime story thing in the beginning. Okay, cold open, that's his shine. Rachel with her thing with Myrtle, like the Urkel exchange program, and Myrtle dissing her about her shade. That was something for Rachel. Carl and Harriet, obviously. I mean, they're big on, the Eddie and Laura prank thing of it all, and reacting to Myrtle with both like, whoa, and also Eddie and Laura, they got it. Steve, obviously Steve, that's his cousin Myrtle. And he serenaded Laura with the first prank. That was a big moment for him. God, I don't know. Who else? I think that's everybody. Is that everybody? Did I miss that? I mean, Eddie and Laura obviously were central because of their pranks. Mama Winslow was not in this episode. And okay, that's fine. I mean, she's great, but and actually, you know what? I really would like to see what a dynamic with Myrtle would be like. That would be interesting to see. But I honestly think that Judy's junk food, because if you're just going to give me a mumbled, "You got it," in response to whatever somebody said, it's like you might as well just have gone to the dressing room with Mama Winslow. Like, why are you here? Like, give me something, Judy, or give me nothing.
So I didn't know that Judy Winslow was in this episode. I did not see her. I did not know that she was in any scene. I was actually wondering why she wasn't in the bedroom with Laura, because from what we know, they share a room together.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, I guess Judy's just not here. But apparently she was on screen and I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the first kitchen scene, a blip. You got it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That is the season 2 version of I mean my feet. Like that's what we're getting from Judy now. Because fucking Jaleel is just taking up so much goddamn space with his talent.
He really is. He's like taking over. Damn, Judy, I'm sorry. I did not know you were in this episode, girl. I'm gonna make you my nah, I can't do it. Sorry, Judy.
Where were we gonna make her?
I don't know. I was trying to think of something, but I can't do it. I'm sorry, Judy. I did not know you were here.
Yeah, it didn't even take that long. It took like a year for us to go from like, oh, where Judy stands to, oh, wait a minute, Judy's in this episode. I didn't know.
Yeah, no clue. Damn, girl.
Wow. So we get to scene 8. We're in the kitchen, and Bravo to Family Matters already. They're stepping up with those special effects. As you can see, Steve and Myrtle, they're both in the same room, played by the same actor. And they are being apologized to by Eddie and Laura. I already stated that they don't deserve it in the first place. But what do you think about this scene?
I wrote in giant letters here, Stockholm Syndrome scene.
Hmm.
It was crazy how the Urkels were able to do mental gymnastics into thinking that these kids using them for a prank meant that they are in love. And I laughed my ass off.
Yep, those Urkels, they know how to manipulate you.
And yeah, just to see the delusion runs in the family across characters, I was like, this is a good moment for them to just laugh. Now, I don't think that this thing was needed. I don't really know what anybody's apologizing for. I don't feel like an apology was needed, except maybe for Myrtle trying to kiss Eddie, because like I'm thinking about it, that's the only thing that I would have called sexual assault in this whole entire episode, because Eddie just told Steve to just serenade Laura, just sing to her. That's all you got to do. No touching involved. You're not even entering the room. But Myrtle went into the house. She like did a burgle and went inside the house and tried to kiss him. So that's where the assault is. So the apology should have come from Myrtle, and nobody else should have apologized for anything.
Good point. Good point. Now, this is where I mentioned that Eddie was wearing a shirt. He was wearing, did you see so he took whatever flowers that Laura had in her shirt and he just went on steroids with them. This button down, I'm getting all sorts of colors. I'm getting all sorts of flowery pattern. It literally looks like a flower obsessed hippie and how they would paint their house. Do you remember that shirt?
I do, because I love
I'm sure you do.
I love flowers, and anything floral print to me is just beautiful. And I was like, yes, Eddie, give us flowers.
I, I love that. That should be like a great tagline for something. Oh, Eddie, give us flowers because we're alive and we need our props before we're dead.
Give people their flowers while they're here.
There you go. There you go. So Eddie and Laura, they leave Steve and Myrtle alone in the kitchen to talk over whether they'll forgive them. And I was actually wondering if we were going to get that 2-shot thing that we've seen, I think, in later episodes with Steve and whoever other characters he's playing, Jaleel. Like that 2-shot thing where, like, say Steve will be talking and then you see the camera get a shot of Steve from behind the shoulder of the character that he's talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how from behind the shoulder of that other character Steve is talking to, you can clearly see that it's another actor standing in for that part, because I guess special effects can only do so much. But we didn't do that. No, I mean, we only got like solo shots of Steve and Myrtle as they were individually talking. So I don't know, just an observation that we didn't get to that point yet.
I thought it was cool. I liked how it looked, how they kept them both in the scene. I did want it to like cut to like an over the shoulder shot of Steve, but the person who's playing him is a 35-year-old man. I would love that.
Oh, God. Yeah, that would be great. Steve Urkel, played by Jaleel White, and then standing in for Myrtle while Jaleel does his lines as Steve, a 50-year-old white man with hummus disease. That's not a thing, but I wish it was. White people eat too much hummus.
That sounds like a form of single that's creamy. That's so gross.
You eat too much hummus, you get hummus disease, damn it.
So
Yeah. But unhealthy obsessions, we're enabling it. Stephen, Myrtle, they want to continue stalking Eddie and Laura. So they forgive them in the living room. No surprise. And I think my last point on this scene, I want to get a backstory on this Urkel Oaks business. Urkel Oaks, not Oats, but Oaks. Remember when Myrtle was like, "Oh, Big Daddy is thinking about selling his Urkel Oaks business, and we may move to Chicago."
I would love that. I want to know what they do on this tree farm. What are all these trees for? I need to know.
That's what it is. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just like, here's some nuts and branches from the ground that we made money off of. You're welcome. I don't know.
Look, you're describing a trail mix factory, and I am okay with that.
A trail mix empire. Can you imagine Big Daddy down south and his trail mix empire? That would be great.
I would love it. What? Right in that character. Bring it back.
What would you call that trail mix? Daddy nut.
High fiber trail mix. You get branches and twigs in it with a little bit of nut.
There you go. That's I like that. I like that better because you know what you're getting with high fiber. If you're constipated, you know what you're getting with high fiber. I suggested Daddy Nuts, and that just is not going to go anywhere with a family audience. So we're not going to do Daddy Nuts.
That won't, but that will sell very good at a gay pride event.
I'm sure it will. Anything else you got for this scene?
That is it for me.
All right, that's it for this episode, y'all. Cousin Urkel, season 2, episode 8. And if I'm not mistaken, I should have looked up some IMDb trivia on this. But I think that it's not going to be until like 5 years later that we see Myrtle again.
Yes, 5 years too soon, and I'm happy about that.
Because like you just were not in love with Myrtle completely. You don't want to see her too often.
The second time we see Myrtle, I actually thoroughly hate that episode. So once we get there, y'all, I'll be 40 at the time. It's a terrible episode.
Andrew's going to be getting that AARP discount.
I will. Look at me. I'll be able to drive 95 and not have to worry about paying for it.
There you drive like 95 miles per hour?
Yes.
Wait, that's the thing? Senior citizens can drive 95 miles per hour and not pay a speeding ticket?
I encourage them to do it.
Damn. Well, that's a good thing to look forward to when I'm older, because right now I'm,
John, please do not do that because you will get a ticket. Okay? It is not
real. I thought you were real.
No. You will get a ticket. Don't do that.
But no, I could just be like, "Oh, I'm old and my foot is dying and it was an accident, officer, please."
You know what? It might help you get out of it. I'm not going to lie. Some officers, you can sway them pretty easy.
I'll show you my wrinkly titty if you won't. Please.
I'll show you just a fold of it.
Yeah. I'll show you all the pinch marks from 95 years of pinching my titties. Oh, God. This episode got way too freaky. Anyway, so Delicious Stars. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, y'all, we're going to rate this episode now. And we use star system here. Our stars range from 0 to 3. 0 means that this episode was a waste of time. Don't watch it. Don't put it in your space. 1 star means it's a great episode in its respective season. And to get to that, we're looking at the quality of the episode, the delivery of the lines, the emotion, the personality and vibe of the cast, and what the producer did to bring them together. Is it worth your time watching? And do we, your co-host, have anything in common? So once we get up to 1, to say it's a respectively good episode, we got 2, which means it's an episode that's worth taking the time to watch, and you may rewatch it. And then 3 is an exceptional episode. It encompasses everything we love about this show, and it would be worth taking a special journey to watch it again.
I love it. What's your rating?
I gave this episode a 2-star. This is the first time, though, that I give it 2 stars. I didn't like it. And I'm going to say I didn't like it in the respectivity of the season, of what we're experiencing, what we have experienced, and what we are going to experience. I didn't like the episode as something that I'd be like, hey, I'm going to recommend you start Family Matters here. But what I did like about the episode is that we got great pacing for some of the comedy here. The physical humor is getting better. They're cutting back from overdoing physical humor in just one scene and overloading us and breaking it up between scenes. Now, if we were watching this in the 90s, we would have had commercial breaks in between the scenes. So it would have been even easier to let those laughs settle in and then come back in to the buildup of a laugh. And the cold opening bleeding into the first scene helped set that tone and pace for me. So I feel that this episode deserves 2 stars. Again, I don't like every restaurant I go to, and I didn't like this episode in that spectrum of I like it, so that's why I'm giving this. I like the fact that the episode was done in such a great way that it deserves 2 stars from me.
Wow. You are so much more generous. I give this a 0.8.
Uh,
It, it is, it is, I was thinking about giving it a 1, but I'm like, no, not quite. Not quite. So 0.8 stars. The 0.8 part of it, let's start with that. I suggest you, as a viewer of Family Matters, you listening or watching this, come for Urkel's Feelings Serenade. That was great. Come for Carl's suggestive police shirts. That was wonderful to look at. I think that was like a visual running joke that was maybe discussed behind the scenes. Loved it. You know, I can't, I mean, God, I should play a drinking game. The amount of times I've said sexual assault on this episode, I apologize. Maybe I've used it in a wrong context, but that's just how I see things. What I view as the sexual assault prank theme, I was a little bit concerned, a little bit turned off by that. Myrtle's introduction and the sexualization that she's given on this show at such a young age. It's different when we see it later on when she's like a young adult, early 20s. That's fine. That could be manageable. But as a kid, like doing the little like, oh, pretend titties perk, it's like, I don't know. In 2024, that looks interesting as a choice. And Myrtle overall, this early on in the show, when we still kind of have that memory of season 1 pre-Urkel Family Matters, she just seems bizarre. Like, if you compare where we were in the first 11 episodes of season 1, The Quilt, Rachel's First Date, and other episodes I can't remember right now, and then you fast forward to now, where we have not only Steve Urkel, this full animated nerd, but his very horny Southern Belle cousin. I don't know. I just would not believe you if you told me that this is where we would be if I was looking at, say, episode 2 of season 1 of Family Matters. So I think in that context, I remember just finishing this episode and thinking, this is bizarre. This is bizarre. And we'll get a lot more bizarre Family Matters episodes. So I think just being like in a sort of struggling acceptance that the show that I actually liked for the first 11 episodes, that's not that show anymore. Might take a little bit to get used to. Good moments here, good moments in this episode, but I think overall the theme is, man, the show has changed in just a year and a half.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. The show has changed. This is where, you know, like when older people would be like, I've got to watch my Stone Phillips. They don't say, I've got to watch the evening news. That's where I feel like we're at with Family Matters now. It's not, oh, I'm going to watch Family Matters. It's like, no, I got to watch Urkel tonight.
Yep.
Like, that's where we are, and we got here very fast.
Yeah. And it's only going to keep growing from here. I think I saw something on Reddit. It's like a Black people thing. Like, I think someone said, like, oh, yeah, my grandmother said all the time, like, oh, yeah, put on Steve Urkel. Like, that's just what the show will become. And it's very interesting to look at it as an adult, because I can guarantee you, Andrew, I can guarantee you, as kids watching the first 11 episodes, I mean, would we be interested? Would we give it its flowers like we're giving it now? I mean, I would argue that as kids, we would be there for Steve Urkel and the nonsense, and that's it. And it's only as adults that you can appreciate the pre-Urkel era, where there was just a lot more nuance and depth.
Yeah. If there was not the introduction of Steve Urkel as a kid, this would have been like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman for me. If you're not familiar with that show, it's an older show, and it really does center itself around wholesome family/town activities. And that's what I feel like the first 11 episodes were, where it was actually family matters. It's a family, and we're going through the matters that they deal with. Now it's gone from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman to, oh, Chuck Norris, any of his shows, where it's like, we're just going to see a fist come out of his chin and pump somebody, and that's what we're waiting for. And as a kid, I would have gravitated to that more. Walker, Texas Rangers, the name of the show.
Yeah.
As opposed to Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Yeah. Well, hey, you Delici, listening, viewing us, whatever. Listen, subscribe, follow, rate, and review the Delicious Recap wherever you get your podcasts. Please, I mean, if you like the show so much that you may want to give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts, that would be great. We would love that.
We would love it.
Yeah, we would. We would. And I think Apple will still make you do that. I mean, I know that they've had some changes in their podcast territory. I know that I've tried to leave a review by going through the Apple Podcasts like webpage on my browser. It's impossible to do that. So try it however you can to leave us a review. Let us know that you like the show because that helps other people who are like-minded Family Matters passionate fans find it too. The delicious recap at gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, any thoughts about this episode, we would love to hear it. And yeah, just find us on all the socials. Literally just search the delicious recap. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube. Again, our Patreon, if you want to catch episodes that we're doing for season 2 early, if you want to catch some behind the scenes non-Family Matters conversations, maybe about the election, go to patreon.com/delicious recap. That is patreon.com/delicious recap. For just $5 a month, you get that bonus content. We would love that from you because we're broke and we need your money.
Yes, please. We would love the support. We want to bring in an intern, and your money could help us torture an intern. Can you imagine? We could make them get us coffee and give it to us in both states. They would have to drive hundreds of miles just to bring me a latte. Don't you want that? I'm joking. We're not going to do that. But
I was going to say,
yes, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I thought I was going to be the one to have to put that disclaimer because, you know, intern culture has changed quite a bit from when we were kids.
Yes, we will not do it. We will not be Miranda Priestley, okay? We won't do that to you as an intern, but we would really like for you guys to share the podcast. I want to give you guys a challenge. You're going to hear this episode most likely in November-ish. Share this episode with 5 people. 5 people you know, maybe family members you're going to meet at Thanksgiving, and maybe y'all like to talk about TV shows. If you like it, share it with 5 people that you know. Help us grow and keep building this community. And we are so grateful for you to just listen.
There you go. I totally agree. How can people follow you, Andrew?
You can follow me on the TikTok. My name on there is Ajay Vandertunt, Vandertunt. You can follow me. I talk about all kinds of ratchet stuff, and I'm just going to be in your face with green screens and DoorDash.
Love it. Our next episode is season 2, episode 9. A little bit of a longer title, Dedicated to the One I Love. Now, without having seen this episode, you want to make a guess? Is this going to be a Carl and Harriet kind of thing? Is it going to be a Rachel kind of thing? A Mama Winslow kind of thing? Are we going to get yet another Steve and Laura dynamic kind of episode?
What we're going to get, and I know you guys are not expecting this is about to be an episode about Little Richie and his favorite toys. And I'm so excited about it.
Are you for real, or are you just hoping that's what it's going to be about?
Oh, I'm 100% serious. That is what is happening. And if it deviates from that, I'm writing a strongly worded letter to MGM.
Okay. I don't know if that's who owns the Family Matters content, but okay, you could do that.
You're going to get the letter anyway, MGM Plus, because I hate you right now.
Damn you, lion that appears in the movie opening credits. Damn you. You want to sign us off in a way that describes how we feel about this recap?
Sure. Let's talk about the fact that we had an episode here that I think both of us view differently because it tasted different to us. And that's okay, because that deliciousness rang for this episode. I am happy about it.